like many of you, I woke up today and said, wow, there might be a NASCAR race coming to San Diego. Just one of the benefits, if you're a subscriber on Section 1904, you get the front row seat delivered to your inbox each morning. Great headline today, NASCAR may be coming to San Diego. Wow, that's one that was off my radar while I was watching yet another edition of Padres and Dodgers and everything that comes with Padres and Dodgers. Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is Section 1904. I'm Darren. He's John. We do have a guest today. His name is Jared. We'll tell you about him in a moment. But, John, that was a nice little nugget that you dropped on everybody. One of the great benefits of being a subscriber to Section 1904, the front row seat delivered to your inbox there with all sorts of news that you didn't even know existed.
Thank you. Part of the reason that was the headline was I couldn't do another day with the headline being Sparks Fly as Dodgers beat Padres. But yeah, that was not on my radar until probably about 20 minutes before I hit publish, and I saw that and I was like, ooh, and I read it and I actually got like a little excited for it. I don't know why. I didn't expect myself to. It sounds like maybe you as well are excited at the prospect of not just a NASCAR race. This isn't like the thing where they build a track inside of the LA Coliseum that's really tiny and they drive in a circle, like a road course. And they were talking about a road course that would go along the water, which in my brain, I'm like, so does that just shut down all traffic to the airport? Because I don't know where else they would put a road course that would go along the water except for down Harbor Drive. But are you actually excited for this? Is this something that's like appealing to you in theory? Because I think it is for me, and I'm not entirely sure why.
Well, the first thing I thought about is a conversation that I had with my pal Sean Kelly, and it made me think immediately that we should have Sean on the podcast. Sean is the top statistician for Formula One. And so Sean travels all over the world. He goes to 30-plus races every year. As a matter of fact, he's posting on Instagram today from Monaco. I'm like, man, I would love to be in Monaco.
What a job.
Not that I got a bad here in Imperial Beach, but, Monaco is not many better places on earth than Monaco. Anyway,
Right.
Not the point, but one of the things that Sean said to us when he would join us in studio, John, and I think I may have mentioned it here, is he actually put together a proposal for the city of San Diego to have a Formula One race in town. And he had the course all laid out. He had the track. He had some of the people from the sport, some of the bigwigs from the sport who were interested. And it was at a time where Bob Filner was the mayor. And Filner had all sorts of fucking problems. So, that didn't work out.
Right.
But they actually started progressing a little bit. And it was right in this weird space where the Chargers were leaving or not leaving. And now all of a sudden you thought, well, maybe this is an opportunity if they're going to go. If they're going to go, maybe this is an opportunity now where we would say not as a replacement for, but you could also bring this in. And he had the whole track laid out. I know that the pit, he can come on here and he could talk about this better than I, but it would have been down Harbor Drive. I don't know that it would have been down Harbor Drive by the airport, but it would have been on Harbor Drive. And pit lane would have been at the convention center. Have you ever driven on Harbor Drive by the convention center? You can pull in and out.
Yeah.
There's parking underneath the convention center. That's where the pits were going to be. So I don't know how much of this plan I'd have to. And I sent the story to Sean this morning, just seeing if he would be around and available to us. He just got done with the Canadian Grand Prix over the weekend. And now he's back over in Europe. But he's a great guest. He's a phenomenal guest, and he's really dialed in. And he brought this to the mayor's office. He brought this to the city. And he advanced it a little bit. And then they said, hey, listen, our mayor's a creep here. I know he just passed away. But he's kind of got some problems. So maybe this isn't the right time. And it just, then COVID and it just fell apart. So I would love to know if there's anybody actually using the blueprint, to think about bringing a NASCAR race to San Diego. I don't know. I mean, would I be excited about it? Yes. Would I prefer a Formula One race? Absolutely.
Well, sure.
But if it's good for San Diego, then I'm all for it.
It's funny. So I posted this on Blue Sky and I said, yeah, it does look like this is going to happen. And I was like, and strangely enough, I'm actually like excited for it. And one guy replied and he's like, why wouldn't you be excited for it? And I thought, and I was like, I wrote back to him. I was like, have you been to Vegas in the last couple of years? He's like, no, why? I was like, Vegas has been like, there was a year there where Vegas was under construction for the F1 racetrack that they built.
Yeah, getting to the airport in a taxi was quite a challenge.
It was. And then even with the races that I think they've now held 2 of them in Vegas, like the people of Vegas, they hate this thing. They wish it had never come. Not just the construction that took a year, but there's like stands that just sit up all year long for a race that happens, one day a year, or even like one weekend a year. And it's changed the face of Vegas in a number of different ways. In ways that people that live there are not happy about. And I don't know that NASCAR would do exactly the same thing, but I imagine they would have to do some of the things that F1 did in Las Vegas. And yeah, I'd be interested to get Sean's take or anyone's take, coming from a place of, I've seen a road course being built in a city and this is how disrupted it could be. But in theory, I don't know, sounds fun.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. And I do think that there's always going to be a little bit of temporary pain for something like that. I was in Vegas during the construction, and I saw some of the belly aching that went on year 1. But by year 2, I think they got a lot of those things figured out. Yeah. There were people that were predicting that they would never get this race off the ground, and that there certainly wouldn't be a year number 2 after how calamitous year number 1 was. And year number 2, by all accounts, seemed to go really, really well. And it brought a lot of money into the area. And people
did they do it in the middle of the night again?
Yeah, it's a great thing on television. Yeah, I mean, it is stunning television to watch the Vegas race. In all objectivity, it is a really, really great television event to see the lights of Vegas and see these cars going 180 miles per hour down the strip. It is a visually stunning thing to see. I think as a viewer, as a television viewer, I don't know that I'd go there. Then again, I also like going to sporting events less and less as I get older. You got to share bathrooms with people and the lines and all that. But anyway, not the point. I think it'd be a good thing. Would there be a little bit, then you have to get into the weeds about the tax dollars and all that sort of stuff. Hey, we're going to get some paved streets. I mean, maybe that's not the worst thing ever. But remember, even that was a thing in Vegas because these cars were going so fast and they generated so much force that they were literally ripping sewer caps off the street. So, that's just a design flaw, I would think. But yeah, I'm all for it. I would prefer an F1 race, but, that's just me. So I don't know. Maybe more people like NASCAR than like Formula One in San Diego. And if so, okay, great. Very popular. I'm sure it would be quite a race on the 8 freeway heading back and forth.
For sure.
Lots of people driving from all parts of San Diego County to go enjoy this.
All parts of the eastern side of San Diego County, yes.
All right, we have a guest. Jared Diamond is going to join us at the Wall Street Journal. I used to love having Jared on the radio. Really smart. He covers baseball. He does tip his toe in other sports from time to time, but really what Jared's bread and butter is Major League Baseball. And I have a couple things that I want to talk to Jared about. Probably talk about the trade, talk about the MLB television rights, because they've actually reported really well at the Wall Street Journal. I've seen some stuff at the Wall Street Journal about the future of baseball's television packages that I haven't seen anywhere else. So we'll talk about that with Jared. He mentioned, and they reported that NBC seems to be the leader right now to pick up the national television package, but he also wrote about what baseball's overall intentions are over the next couple of years, and we'll get into some of the details. He also wrote a story about the head of the Players Association, Tony Clark, who might be in a little bit of trouble. John has been digging in on this story, so he will talk to us about all of these things. Maybe we'll get into a little Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame after Rob Manfred had dinner at the White House. All of a sudden, it was decided then that Pete Rose would be eligible for the Baseball Hall of Fame. And of course, what is a strike? What is a ball? What is a check swing? What is the future of umpiring Major League Baseball? This also has been reported at the Wall Street Journal. So we'll try to get in as many of these subjects as possible. John, last night, Padres lost to the Dodgers. Padres are 39-33. Just for those who don't look at the standings, we do every minute, every day. We're addicted to them, especially on June 18th. Padres lost again. A little bit of back and forth. Fernando Tatis Jr. got hit by a 94-mile-per-hour pitch. Randy Vasquez in the subsequent inning went out there and hit Shohei Ohtani. I don't have any real issue with any of the stuff that happened last night. The more and more I thought about it, the more I think that there is a chance, a good chance, that I think it's more likely that Dylan Cease did hit Andy Pages the other night. I think it's a better chance that he did than he didn't. I'm not saying that he did. Yeah. I'm just saying I think it's a better chance that he did than he didn't. Don't know if there's going to be any carryover in the game number 3, but I will say this. If that's what the Padres are waking up thinking about today, then their headspace is all wrong. They got to figure out a way to win. And if the Dodgers have the luxury of being antagonists here. And I know we all have this Mike Schilt line stuck in our head. We don't start the shit, but we'll finish the shit. I don't think this is a night where you really want to be a tough guy when you really need a win. And the Padres with Stephen Kolek on the mound, John, they really need a win tonight. I don't know that this should be everybody's priority leading to another 7-10 first pitch at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, I don't miss those 7:10 starts. Not even a little bit. When it was like 10:30 last night, I was like, really? We couldn't have started this 30 minutes earlier? God, we sound like old guys.
I'm the same. I'm like, oh, man. And like, Mac, when do I take my melatonin?
Yeah. I just want to point out, you said that we're obsessed with the standings and we look at them every day. After the last couple games, I'm like, I don't need to look at the standings.
I know.
Like, when they start winning games, maybe I'll check and see where they're at. But right now, and then you said
3.5 back or whatever it is.
Then you said the Padres really need a win tonight against one of the most expensive team in the history of baseball, who everyone just assumes is going to waltz to the World Championship. So Stephen Kolek, get on out there and get a win for us. This guy wasn't even a starting pitcher last year. He was a Rule 5 reliever that we were storing in the back of the bullpen. Like, things
I
are
gotta
bad.
admit, it's kind of annoying too, the way the Dodgers just like literally will pull a random guy out of the bullpen, and win these games. Like, I'm like, God, this feels a little insulting. It's not like you're going up there and facing Glasnow, Snell, Yamamoto, right?
Right.
Shohei in his prime. It's just like this steady stream of guys who like you're vaguely aware of. It's like, geez, this is kind of damaging to the ego now.
Yeah, it's really brutal. Let me know when you're ready for me to start absolutely losing my shit over the Randy Vasquez side of this, because I am still absolutely fucking furious at the Randy Vasquez side of this. But before we get into that, Mike Schilt is on my shit list for the last week. I might as well just call it Mike Shit at this point. But I did find it humorous actually from the Dodgers perspective. So Dave Roberts gets tossed because both teams get warnings after Ohtani gets plunked by Vasquez, right? And Dave Roberts goes out during a break in the action to basically ask, why is my guy getting a warning? Why are we being warned? And he takes 2 steps onto the field and the umpire tosses him. And Dave loses his mind, and he's got to be held back by another umpire. And he makes it look like if that guy wasn't there, he'd be punching the other umpire who tossed him right in the face. Big tough guy, Dave Roberts. He gets thrown out. They're like pushing him down the tunnel to get down into the dugout and then down the tunnel. And Mike Schilt gets up on the grass and walks out and goes, hey guys, can I have an explanation of what's happening here? And Dave Roberts in his post-game thing was like, oh, I saw their manager got a nice explanation. He didn't get tossed. What a little shit. You see the other manager get tossed for asking for an explanation. You wait for him to get tossed, and then you get up and you do the exact same thing. God, what a pain in the ass that guy can be.
I know. You're like, what is your motivation there, Schilty? Are you trying to get tossed out of there too? And it is funny because, if you've ever been around Dave, he's not the biggest human being.
Yeah.
And just sort of to see this little fella kind of trying to navigate his way around the umpire, I thought was some high comedy, because he's trying to be all serious and he's trying to I want a piece of that third base umpire. And the home plate umpire's just like, nah, dude. He might as well have put his hand on his forehead, that thing where you see an older kid put his hand on the smaller kid's head. He might as well have done that.
That's the big brother move. I'm a little brother. I had that happen to me. But it was funny to watch Dave take a full 2 minutes trying to walk past one of the umpires. He never ran. Never once did he try to actually push her. He was like, oh, you're walking this way? I'm going to walk this way. He spent it was ridiculous.
And the umpire knew exactly which way he was going as well. Yep. Yeah. I mean, listen, if there's carryover tonight, there's carryover. Who can predict these things? I just would tell you, I don't think it's what everybody's priority should be if the Padres woke up thinking about that. I also thought Schilty in the post-game press conference randomly and without any sort of provocation whatsoever being like, oh man, Andy Pages had a great game. Wow, got to give that guy credit. I was like, wait, what? He was not asked a single question about Andy Pages. Yesterday, he was like, who the fuck do you think you are? By the way, I did ask around about that real quick. I know we have a guest, so I don't want to go on about this forever. Generally, the response I got was it's understood that managers don't go after other players like that. You could say, hey, take your base. I'm not trying to hit you. Just take your base. Come on. But saying that sort of stuff. One person who used to work in a front office said, I don't know that I would love my manager escalating something. And then somebody went on to hypothesize that had the benches cleared there and a brawl erupted, that Mike Shildt might have been facing a more lengthy suspension because of what it was that he was saying to Andy Pages. Now, that didn't happen. So, I just wanted to make sure that I felt like I didn't want it to sound like I was just flying off the handle about Shildt. But I asked some other people, what do you see here? And I have that luxury. It's one of the great things about working in radio for 20 years and being around a lot of different people and players and what different walks of life in baseball. You can say, hey, can you just tell me what you think? It's like one guy's like, yeah, I don't love that. I just think that that's escalation and you probably don't want it from your manager. And others like, yeah, I would never say that to another player, another team's player. That's a big no-no. You can say, hey, go take your base. But saying something that sounded that pointed and personal, like who the fuck do you think you are? Probably not great. But hey, anyway, it's water under the bridge and the Padres lost and
okay.
Got two more at Dodger Stadium, which is like, geez, the series ever going to end?
No. The follow up to that is like, and we've played. I'm not going to compare what you and I our physical our athletic histories to that of professional players, but like I've been on basketball teams, playing pickup basketball, and one of the guys on your teams talks shit to one of the guys on the other team, and all of a sudden that guy gets fired up and he makes 4 threes in a row. And you're looking at him going, fuck, man, did you have to turn him on? Did you have to piss him off? Did you have to do? And I wonder last night as Andy Pages goes 4 for 4 with 2 home runs and 3 RBIs, there had to have been someone, not saying it, but there had to have been someone after the second Pages home run who looked at Shildt and went like, really, man? Really? Yeah. You had to?
Right. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. And for what it's worth, because I think you and I are probably aligned about Randy Vasquez, who threw less pitches against the Dodgers in this outing than he did last week when we didn't like it. And this is an easy thing to do. I just am going to point this out and let everybody think about it. Randy Vasquez has thrown 9 2/3 innings in his last 2 starts against the LA Dodgers. Okay, 9 2/3. He's allowed 6 hits and 4 earned runs. Okay,
that's fine. Yeah.
And I like Jeremiah Estrada, so I am not dumping on him, but This is not working out for him. He has gone 2+ innings over 3 appearances against the Dodgers, and I say 2+ because he's had 3 appearances. He didn't get an out last night. He's allowed 7 hits and 7 earned runs. So if you're sitting going after the game, Randy Vasquez, maybe he's earned a little bit more. Well, maybe we should actually put that into practice because, the decision-making here doesn't seem to support, or the results don't seem to support the decision-making. And that's all I'll say.
Okay. So we were complaining about this after the last game when he got pulled after 70 pitches and Mike Shilt's like, hey, we could use more length from our starters. And it's like, you made the choice, Mike.
Mike, you take the ball from him. Like, this is literally in your hands.
Yeah. And everyone was kind of watching like, hey, Ohtani's coming up for the 3rd time. Is he going to leave him in? Yeah, he is. And you know what? He got Ohtani out. And then
by the way, he also drilled him the 2nd time. So does not even count.
I know. But he also played him last week. Does it really matter? And then he gets Betts out, and he gets out, and you're like, wow, he's doing good. Maybe they're gonna let him go. No, pulled after 68 pitches and 5 innings when your bullpen is fucking gassed, and it's gassed. And okay, 2 things. One, Mike Shildt had this quote, and my blood has been boiling. Someone asked, I'm assuming it was AC, asked if Randy Vasquez is close to having earned the trust to get another inning if in this type of situation. And Shildt said, no question. He earned it tonight. I mean, he earned the top 2 of the order tonight. He got through it tonight. He's at a pitch count where if he goes back out and runs into traffic, now we're going to have to make a move at a certain area. Why not just start a clean inning with one of your best right-handed relievers or relievers, period? But yeah, to answer your question, he earned it tonight. He got the top 2, and we go from there. So he's getting more. If Mike Shildt wants credit for not pulling Randy Vasquez after pitching 4 1/3 innings and throwing probably 50-something pitches? Mike Shildt, I have bad news for you. I'm not going to give you credit for leaving him in there for the last 2 batters that he got out. Also, a stat before we move on, please, because they haven't been managing Vasquez like this all year. It's just gotten worse. So, in his last 4 starts, Randy Vasquez has thrown, before being pulled, an average of 73.5 pitches. Also, his ERA in these starts is 4.08, and his FIP is 7.37.
FIP.
Bad. Real bad. Fielding independent pitching. In the 5 starts before those 4 starts, preceding those 4 starts, he threw 87.5 pitches per start before being pulled. The comparison point, again, now 73.5 before 87.5. That's 14 more pitches they were letting him go through, and about an extra inning worth of work. His ERA during those 5 starts was 2.89, and his FIP was 4.78. So what the fuck changed? Like, he was showing you that letting him go for about 5-6 innings and about 90 pitches was really good. And all of a sudden this turned into he can't pitch more than 5 innings or throw more than 70 pitches. And nothing fucking changed. He didn't start getting tagged. He didn't get injured at some point. His velocity's not down. It's like they just decided that this Vasquez guy, 3rd time through the order, it's just not going to work. And it's like, that can't be the only thing that drives your decision making. There are many factors here, Mike. Many, including your bullpen being tired and Vasquez looking like he was doing pretty well last night. And I don't understand this single-mindedness to be like, no, Randy Vasquez, he's hit 5 innings, he's out. Doesn't his 52 pitches. Oh, maybe I'll let him go an extra 10. Like, what are you doing? They're going to let Stephen Kolek have more of more rope tonight than they gave to Randy Vasquez. They're going to let Ryan Bergert have more rope against the Dodgers in Game 4 than Randy Vasquez in Game 2, and I don't understand why.
Well, you're not alone. I mean, he's got 15 starts on the year. It's not like we're talking about, Anyway, I mean, we could chase our tails on this all day. All right. Let's switch it up. Padres, Dodgers coming up later on tonight. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about how much money the Dodgers have, and just look at the 2 television deals. And the future of baseball is very interesting. I've not quite seen some of the details that I read earlier today in the Wall Street Journal about what Rob Manfred is going for here. And, I also would just point one thing out here quickly before we say hello to Jared Diamond. Just when you talk about national television deals, right now, Major League Baseball gets $85 million a year from Apple. The NBA just signed a new deal where they get $1.8 billion a year from Amazon. $85 million baseball for all the complaints that we get about Apple TV. NBA just signed, and this is just part of their new television deal or new rights deal, $1.8 billion a year from Amazon. That's amazing. So let's say hello to Jared Diamond. To talk about a bunch of things happening with the business of the sport. Jared Diamond, Wall Street Journal next. All right, well, let's talk about some of the things happening in baseball. Some of the things that happened this week, some of the things that are happening over the next couple of months, next couple of years. It's a pleasure to say hello to Jared Diamond of the Wall Street Journal, who's the author of a book that we always recommend called Swing Kings. I hope people can still find it out there. I did once upon a time, John, volunteer to be the voice, the narrator of the audiobook for Jared's book, but it didn't really go anywhere. So maybe the sequel to it will figure out a situation that makes sense for it all. Jared, thanks for doing this. Appreciate the time.
Always glad to talk to you.
Let's talk a little bit about something, the news of the week, before we jump into some of the bigger picture topics, and that would be Rafael Devers being traded from the Red Sox to the San Francisco Giants. He debuted on Tuesday night. Tell us a little bit about the reaction in your part of the world. What's the northeast quadrant of the United States? What's their reaction to this trade?
Shocked, first of all. But I think everybody is shocked. I don't know if that's northeast specific. This truly came out of nowhere. Nobody in the baseball industry foresaw this news happening when it did. I think there was a world where you could see the situation between Devers and Boston deteriorating to the point where they would move him, but not in the middle of June on a Sunday night after the Red Sox just completed a sweep of the Yankees. You just don't see big trades this time of year. Trade deadline, off season, sure, maybe, but not on June 13th, 14th, whenever it was. Yankee fans specifically, as you could imagine, are thrilled about it, right? I mean, it significantly hurts Boston in the short term. Devers has been killing the Yankees for years. So the whole American League East is very happy to see this guy out of the division. And at least for the short term, the Red Sox are a worse team. What this trade means for them in the long term, we will see. I think with any trade like this, there's always this knee-jerk reaction to declare a winner and a loser on day one. And look, based on day one, it's very clear. It seems like the Giants won the trade. They got the best player in the trade. The Giants are a far better team today than they were 4 days ago. But 5 years from now, maybe we'll see it differently. It's just a little too soon to say.
Well, Craig Breslow said the other day, maybe it's just the kind of thing you have to say when you're being peppered with questions from local media, national media, that he sees a scenario where the Red Sox could be better at the end of the year than they would have been had they not made this trade. And I wonder if you think that there's some truth to that or if that's just the thing that you would expect to hear from a GM.
I think that's extremely unlikely that they're going to be better at the end of this year than they would have been otherwise. Who knows? Maybe the Red Sox go on a little run here and they go out and make a big trade to add at the trade deadline. Be kind of weird, but maybe that's what happens. I think the bigger sort of medium-term question is what do they do with that money, right? They just freed up a lot of money. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that contract may not age particularly well. Then again, almost no long-term contracts age particularly well. But in the case of Devers, he's not a good defender really anywhere. That will only continue to get worse. Even if he's playing first base every day down the road, he will not be an elite first baseman. I think that we could all sort of agree on that. So he's a very sort of one-dimensional player, relies on his offense. The contract might not age well. Fine. You could make that argument. I think it's a fair argument. But if the Red Sox just sit on that money and don't go out and spend it on new players, then it's like sort of what are we doing here? And the Red Sox haven't built up a lot of goodwill. They don't deserve the benefit of the doubt at this moment based on what they've done the last few years. The reality is the trade of Mookie Betts to Los Angeles is going to go down as one of the worst trades in baseball history. It's completely embarrassing. And I would argue, and I think others have argued too, that everything that's happened since, all the way up to this trade of Devers, all goes back to Mookie Betts. That just started this multi-year chain reaction to where now the Red Sox, they kind of need to just sort of start all over because that move of Betts just derailed them for years.
Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of old former Red Sox running around the NL West for the next 7 years. It'll be fun to watch this aging group. To the subject of the business of baseball, recently Rob Manfred had said that he expects to have some form of an announcement about a future television deal, perhaps by the All-Star break or somewhere around the All-Star break. I'm paraphrasing, Jared. And you've written a little bit about this at the Wall Street Journal. Most recently, about a month ago, about NBC Universal bidding for the MLB rights that were dropped by Major League Baseball. We've talked a little bit about this. It's impactful here in San Diego, a team which currently has maybe the worst television deal in the entire sport, getting somewhere between 20 and 25 million bucks a year, according to Kevin Acee of the Union Tribune. What's the latest with what's happening with Major League Baseball selling its television rights, its future television rights, now that the deal with ESPN is coming to an end at the end of 2025?
So the timeline hasn't changed. And I don't think that should be a surprise. That's more a matter of sort of necessity than anything else. This deal would start next season. If you don't have an agreement in place soon, the new partners just simply won't have enough time to sort of build up to be ready to be broadcasting Major League Baseball games in April of next year. So it makes sense that they're going to sort of want a resolution to this in the next month or the next few weeks or whatever it is. So this is an interesting situation, right? We all know what happened with ESPN. I think we also, if you've been following this, sort of know what Major League Baseball views as its future, right? The Fox deal expires at the end of 28. The TNT Sports deal expires at the end of 2028. What baseball wants is to go into the offseason of 2028 with its full rights package, completely unfettered, to sort of begin a new era, sort of reshape the entire baseball media landscape in one fell swoop, which means that in all likelihood, we're looking at a short-term deal now to replace this ESPN inventory. 3 years. Baseball does not want anything really on the books past 2028. So what this becomes about is building up value of baseball in 3 years, which is why NBC has sort of emerged as a candidate. It is not because NBC is likely to pay the most. If baseball was simply chasing the most money, there are streamers that are sitting on seemingly limitless piles of cash and desperately want to be in the live sports business that would probably pay them more. That could be someone like Apple, who baseball's already in business with, or Amazon, or whoever it would be. But what NBC provides them is reach. NBC gives them reach. It puts major baseball games on another broadcast network, maybe not every Sunday night, right? Because NBC has a lot of other sports responsibilities, right? They have NBA, they have the NFL on Sunday nights, but nonetheless, some portion of baseball games on NBC, potentially a postseason series on real NBC, or at least some games on real NBC. And I think baseball views this as, okay, we get reach, and that helps us build our value. Even if we're making, a third of what ESPN was going to pay us, that money is gone. They're not getting the money ESPN was going to pay them from anybody. They're just not, right? No one's going to pay them the $550 million ESPN had just walked away from. So fine, what could we do now to build up our value as much as possible before we go and try to reshape our entire media landscape? It's why NBC is appealing. But I think there's also a scenario where the ESPN inventory is not sort of sold as one block, right? We think of ESPN, they had Sunday Night Baseball, they had the wild card round, the home run derby. Baseball, I think it's very likely, from everything I've heard people I'm talking to, they chop that up and it kind of goes to multiple places, right? Let's say Fox is interested in the home run derby, right? They already have the All-Star game. They could get the home run derby too, make it a sort of one big package. NBC might want Sunday Night Baseball. I've also heard NBC has interest in some other things. They want potentially some rights to do some holiday season, regular season holiday games. 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, right? So it's not going to be sort of a one-to-one sale. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple ends up with more baseball inventory beyond just Friday nights when this is all said and done. So, it's not going to be that apples to apples comparison, but at the end of the day, baseball's trying to set itself up so that in 2028 or after 28, it's going to try to make big changes both nationally and locally. As all Padres fans know, their TV situation's debacle right now. They're not the only ones in this situation. Rob Manfred wants to sell off the local rights, right? He wants to take them from the teams, sell them as a collective block, divide that revenue up sort of evenly. And all of that sort of starts to become a reality as we move into 2028, 29.
And you've written about this. You said Manfred's model, and I am reading from the Wall Street Journal, Manfred's model would require teams to cede control of their local rights to the league office so that MLB could sell them collectively as a unified streaming package. Viewers would be able to purchase the games of the teams that they want to see without the blackouts that have long vexed devotees who live near where their favorite teams play. No cable subscription would be required. Revenue would be distributed among all teams like it already is with national deals with Fox and Warner Brothers. Meanwhile, MLB could continue to sell the rights to the high-profile events like the postseason, Sunday night games, etc. I started working for an MLS team here in San Diego, and they have the Apple TV contract where all of the games are on Apple. And you can go there anytime you want. It's not broken down. You pay for the whole thing. And I think there's a lot of good things about that. I think that there's a couple of things maybe specific to soccer that somebody could objectively be critical of. right? Like it's just not on television anymore and people are unaware of it. But it sounds like that's what baseball wants. Am I reading this right, Jared? That what they're looking for here is sort of putting, the regional networks model all under one umbrella on some streaming service where you get to dictate the terms, you get to dictate the content, and you just say, listen, here's the app, download this, whatever it might be, go find it, and you're going to find all of your baseball right here on this one platform. Is that about right?
Yeah, in simple terms, yeah. I think that, like you said, the MLS Apple situation has pros and cons, but I think it's at least a decent model for what baseball has in mind, right? I think the RSN business is drowning. It just is, right? Like, and there's how many clubs this year don't even have an RSN, and MLB is producing their games. I think 6 or 7. San Diego being an example. There's the sort of zombie Diamond Sports Network now. What is it, FanDuel now, that is just sort of hanging on by a thread. With all due respect to those people, like, that is not the future. It's just the RSN model is not the future. The future is going to be streaming. The issue is there's a few issues, right? It's like where do you go? I think one of the biggest problems with MLS and Apple is that it's Apple, right? Like Apple TV Plus, while it's a great service and has a lot of great stuff on it, a lot of great shows, it's not Netflix, right? It doesn't have the reach, right? Like not a lot of people have Apple TV Plus, relatively speaking, right? Compared to a place like Netflix or Amazon Prime. So you're asking people to get a subscription to a thing they don't already have. And if you're going to do that, you better be offering a product a lot of people desperately want, right? So I don't imagine this going to a place like Apple. I think baseball is going to want to go someplace with more reach, right? I think Amazon, for example, being one potential landing spot because of the reach, right? So many people have Amazon Prime, even if they don't even watch anything on it, because they have Amazon Prime. And as a result, they have access to Marvelous Mrs. Maisel or whatever else is on Amazon these days. I don't know. I don't have time to watch a lot of TV. I have 2 4-year-olds in my house. That show's over, I think. Anyway, so I think that's possible. ESPN is about to launch its new sort of streaming platform as well. So like where it goes, that all needs to be figured out. But the basic idea is, that's where they want to be. It would get rid of blackouts. A lot of people sort of pick and choose the teams they want. They get everything. They get some things, and it would be streaming. The other sort of big part of this, of course, is it's a fundamental change to baseball's economics, right? Every other sport, the NFL, the NBA, they derive the vast majority or a large part of their revenue from national television, which they divide evenly among the teams, right? The NFL has no local television, right? Everything is national. So all of their TV revenue is divided evenly. The NBA does have local TV, but it's a much, much smaller piece of the pie. NBA teams really derive the revenue from the $11 billion, Amazon, NBC, ESPN deal they just signed. Baseball is the opposite, where teams actually derive a good portion of their revenue. I think about a quarter from local television, right? And you in San Diego know this works. You go out, you make your own deal, that's your money, right? So as a result, the Los Angeles Dodgers are making like $330 million a year from their local TV. That's going to last for like the next 10 years or whatever. And a team like the Padres making $20 million a year from their local TV. And then everybody wonders why the Dodgers have a $500 million payroll and the Marlins have a $70 million payroll. At the end of the day, that's why a team like the Dodgers are generating so much revenue from local TV that they get to keep and spend on players that other teams are not. In this sort of model that Rob Manfred envisions, that he believes is crucial for the future of the game, all of this would be split, right? The Dodgers would make less. They wouldn't be able to keep their local TV money. The local TV money would be just sold as a package. Everybody would split it. The Dodgers would make a lot less. A team like the Padres would make more. And in theory, it would help solve the competitive issue that baseball has, even out the payroll disparity. Potentially even doing that without the year-long labor stoppage that would come with trying to implement a salary cap, right? In theory, and I say in theory because the union's already sort of protesting this notion, but in theory, baseball can do this without the players' approval, right? In theory. Again, the union's already saying they would have to bargain this. That's sort of a labor discussion to be argued later. But at the end of the day, this is something that the league could sort of do a lot easier without dealing with the players, and maybe it would have an impact on helping solve some of the other problems the game is dealing with right now.
See, I didn't realize that part. I thought they would have to convince the Dodgers, Yankees, Cubs, etc.
Yeah.
They would. They would. That's why Rob Manfred has to convince all the teams to go along with it.
So
he doesn't have to convince the players. How does he do that? Well,
yeah, I mean, the Padres would run to this kind of opportunity, but the Dodgers would probably be like, yeah, no thanks.
So, it's an interesting question. And it's sort of the question of why Rob Manfred gets paid the big bucks. So I think 5 years ago, this would have been DOA, right? Completely DOA, because there's always been this sort of group of more than you need 23 teams to go along with a plan to get enough, to get support. There was always 8 big market teams that would go against something like this, right? But a lot has changed in the last few years. 2 big things have changed. One is the Dodgers really becoming the Death Star Dodgers, right? Shohei Ohtani bringing in all the money they're making, coupled with the collapse of the TV market elsewhere, sort of allowing the Dodgers to sort of become this, a one of one in some ways, right? And 2 is Steve Cohen and the Mets, right? To have this ridiculously wealthy guy come into the game and start spending money just out of his nose because he can, not because his revenues support it, because he just doesn't care about how much money he's losing because he just wants to win so badly. It's increasingly, even the bigger teams are going, whoa. This is not working, right? So suddenly the Yankees, the Phillies, the Cubs are like, wait, even we can't keep up with what the Dodgers and to some extent what the Mets are doing. So what Rob Manfred's, I think, gonna have to sort of tell the Dodgers, look, you could fight for the present that you have, but if this continues, you need someone to play against, right? And 2/3 of the league is just not going to be able to compete if we don't make changes. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying it's going to be smooth, right? But you're just starting to see the Dodgers increases are out on their own island. And that's not going to work, right? That they can't 29-1, the 29 wins,
Yeah, Dodgers are a good argument for baseball pushing towards parity, which I know a few years back it was very trendy to be like, well, the NFL has captured parity, and that's why everyone loves the NFL.
Don't get me started on
right.
the parity question.
And then obviously Adam Silver pushed towards it, and what you're just talking about is hey, parity is good for everyone. It's good for the league. It would make national matchups more interesting, so maybe you get more people who are interested in baseball nationally as opposed to just locally. But you said something, and I could be completely wrong about this, and you're the right person to tell me if I'm wrong about this. Why would the players be against this? Because it's my understanding that the way it's set up now, with the Dodgers making all that money from their TV deal, the Dodgers TV deal is not revenue that goes towards the players. It's just revenue that goes to the Dodgers that they can then spend on the players. Whereas the NBA, since they control basically every dollar that comes into the league, can have a deal with the players that's hey, the owners get 50% of all revenue and the players get 50% of all revenue, and we can make sure that things are even or whatever those percentages are. Why would the players be against this push towards parity, at least as far as TV broadcasting rights?
The players are so what's the word? They are so just constantly on edge about anything that sort of reins in big teams' ability to spend big money, right? And they love these gigantic contracts, these Juan Soto-like contracts. And for better or worse, the unions sort of made those superstar players the priority, right? And anything that's going to sort of what they perceive to be stopping teams from paying as much as the market would allow for players, they're completely against. And they view sort of revenue sharing as a mechanism of slowing down big teams and in some ways are disincentivizing small teams from competing. Like, why do they have to compete? They know no matter what happens, the big team just going to subsidize them anyway. Look, we could spend 20 hours talking about baseball's broken labor situation. Never mind the fact that, there's currently a federal investigation going on involving the head of the MLBPA. So who the heck knows what's going to be happening by the time we get to bargaining. But yeah, look, the unions this is their priority. I think reasonable people could disagree about whether that's the right approach, but it's what their approach is. And look, they've also just created such an adversarial environment that when it comes to baseball labor now, if management wants something, the players just by default are going to fight against it. If for no other reason other than just because the owners want it. So therefore it must be bad. I'm not even I'm not saying that they're wrong for feeling that way. I don't take a side in these labor disputes, but just you got to just remember when it comes to baseball labor, there is no sort of work together. It's just a mess. It's just an absolute mess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, speaking of the union, I've been elbows deep in this one-team partner situation and the FBI looking into Tony Clark and the MLBPA and the NFL's kind of weird version of this that existed for 5 seconds. And I'm going to give you a summary based on my experience as someone who's married to a tax attorney who works in nonprofit realm. It seems to me the players' associations are nonprofits. And what they've done is taken a big chunk of revenue that those nonprofits were bringing in the rights deals, the licensing deals for the players for video games and merchandising and whatever, and they moved that to a for-profit company and said, we're going to build this giant war chest, making all this money over here, but still kind of play by the nonprofit rules, or in Tony Clark's case, maybe hiring his daughter and letting them spend money on things that have nothing to do with the Players Association in baseball, which would be considering self-dealing if they were a nonprofit. So, am I wrong? Does a lot of this just boil down to they're trying to run a nonprofit as a profit company on the side?
Listen, you probably understand the inner workings of one-team partners better than I do. I've been covering one-team partners literally since its founding. I was one of the reporters of the Journal that wrote the story breaking the existence of one-team partners back whatever it was, whatever
4 years ago
it was, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I still don't fully understand it or why the NFL wants anything PA is even part of it. But yes, broadly speaking, yeah, that is essentially what the feds are investigating, right? And we got to put out the caveat that the federal government, the FBI investigating something doesn't always mean that there's been a crime, and no one's been charged with any crimes, and the feds haven't even sort of publicly acknowledged they are investigating, because the feds don't ever acknowledge that they're investigating something, right? That's just not sort of how they operate. So let's put all those caveats on it. But yeah, what they're looking at seems to be kind of textbook financial crimes, which is taking money meant for the players and using it for purposes it wasn't supposed to be used for. Tony Clark, it appears, based on our reporting, has sort of emerged as one of the sort of focal points of the investigation. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. Everybody I've talked to on the players, player representatives, etc., I kind of get the sense that players don't, fully sort of understand what's happening here, right? They're in the middle of the season. This is all really complicated, kind of boring, esoteric stuff. And it hasn't quite sort of clicked with everybody that there's sort of a non-zero chance that the head of their union gets indicted for a federal crime. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if this offseason you start seeing a little more players going wait a second, what is this? What's going on? It's also important to remember that baseball players, their whole lives are sort of set up to not think about anything other than baseball during the baseball season. And if they ever need information from anything about anybody, it tends to come from one of two places, either their agents or the union. And if it's the agent, it's probably because they got the information from the union that they're funneling down to the players. So like when the union itself is like the issue, it doesn't like surprise me that, the players are kind of like, wait, what? They don't like really get it yet. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, ask a player like on any random road trip throughout a baseball season what city they're in, and like 50% of them will get it wrong.
Right, like they don't really know what's going on.
Right.
And like that's what it's supposed to be. Again, their lives are supposed to be set up that way.
Speaking of just things that players and this will we'll end on this note because I know we've taken up a ton of your time, Jared, but. Recently I was reading a story at The Athletic about changes to the strike zone that apparently nobody knew about. Like there was just some changes that were made in the way that home plate umpires were calling balls and strikes. Nobody seemed aware of the situation whatsoever. You have also written about some potential changes happening in A-ball around the country with check swings and, video review or some sort of systematic review of check swings. ABS is around the corner. John and I talked about this recently. A week ago on Monday, Manny Machado got punched out looking against the Dodgers. Close game. The camera angle, the television strike zone showed it as a ball, so the announcers flipped out. They took the bat out of his hands. Fans got all upset, started tagging the Umpires Association on social media. Mike Schilt ranted about it in the postgame. Except guess what? The next day we woke up, and on Baseball Savant and Fangraphs, it was a strike. So I don't really know what is a strike anymore. You wrote a story about what is a check swing. How convinced are you that all this technology is going to be a good thing when it comes to either check swings, balls and strikes in the future? Because it feels like it's inevitable that it's coming our way.
ABS is inevitable. I think that's unquestionable. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it as soon as next season. I do think it's coming. I don't sort of see it not. Probably with the challenge system that seems to be much preferred by everybody to sort of full ABS for a variety of reasons. So it's coming. The check swing thing I think is a lot more nascent. I'm not sure if we'll ever see that in Major League Baseball, and if we do, I don't think it'll be for quite a long time. Years, right? This is just the very, very beginning of testing sort of complex technology. It's sort of unclear how well it works, although, there was a pretty suspect check swing by Manny Machado against Shohei Ohtani the other night in that game, but that worked out well for the Padres, so, it was a great call, I guess. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, we'll see. As for, is it good or bad, this is obviously, everyone's got their own opinions about all of this, right? I don't know. I don't know if it's good or bad. I think replays in sports, I've kind of become less into replay as a concept in sports as time has gone on. I just have gotten, maybe as I get older, I'm just I don't want these delays. I just want the game to keep going on. ABS is quick, right? It doesn't slow the game down. So look, I don't know. It's coming. I think it's all but certain to come. It will fix the most egregious calls, and I suppose that is sort of the point of replay, to fix the most egregious calls. I don't know. Technology's taking over all of our lives. Soon it's all going to be AI anyway, so what's the point?
I guess you're right. But as you said, what is a check swing? One of the oldest questions in baseball. I started thinking, well, what is a strike? Because we all went to bed that night against the Dodgers going, yeah, it looks like Manny may have gotten hosed there, Maybe he should have swung. I don't know. It's close. And then you wake up and all these other sites had it as a strike. And you're like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to. What is a strike anymore?
Nobody knows. Yeah. And it's all pretty nebulous, right? The rule book strike zone is not defined all that clearly, right? It's this body part to this body part. And look, there's some subjectivity to it. Maybe that's okay. I don't know.
Well, so wait, I have a question though, because
that is the thing, by the way, as you get older, as the oldest person in this conversation, I just find myself saying, I don't know more and more every minute of every day.
I've just become when baseball brought replay into it, I was arguing for years, baseball needs replay. And now every time there's a challenge, I'm I hate this. Why is there replay? I don't want this. The more I watch every sport, every replay, I'm just why are we? I don't want this. I do not want this replay. Let's just move on. If you're gonna have replay in baseball, I'm not joking. My ideal system, this is how I would have replay in baseball. Okay, if you're gonna do a replay, you do a challenge. Here's how it works. Whoever is doing the thing in New York, in the room over there, they always show it on TV. This is what you get. You get 30 seconds. If you can't tell in 30 seconds, you move on. You don't get minutes. You get like one look. If replay should only be used at this point to like fix calls where every human being in the ballpark immediately knows it's wrong instantly. I do not want to ever again be poring over like pixel by pixel like replays of like whether the tag hit before the guy's finger like touched the base or not. You know, let's just move it along. Let's go. Like, you know, the umpires are doing their best.
I think all of us here are old enough to remember a time in baseball before that little strike zone box was always on the screen. Like, this wasn't that long ago. It was like 15 years ago.
That's wrong.
Well, yeah, first of all, it's not completely accurate. But second of all, I remember it being like kind of a cool thing that like you'd go into a game and like the umpire could sort of have a flavor, right? It'd be like,
sure,
oh, this guy tends to give that low and outside corner. So the pitchers need to be aware of that and the hitters need to be aware. And I'm sure that's still happening. But the problem is he gives the low and outside corner. And if it's outside that little box, everyone loses their mind. Like, well, that's statistically a ball. And A, you're relying on, like Darren said, inaccurate technology. But B, you lose that little bit of like flavor where like each game and each umpire kind of creates their own environment, and some are great and some are bad. And like, you just kind of live with the fact that that's baseball. And we've gotten so far away from that where now everyone just wants to talk about the mistakes that the umpires have made. And there's nothing for umpires to be like proud of, right? Like if you ask any baseball fan, like, hey, which umpire is the best one? They'd be like, I don't know, the one that makes the least amount of mistakes. And it's like, that's not true. That's just never been true.
Right. Yeah. Like especially a thing like balls and strikes, which like there just is some subjectivity when it comes to balls and strikes, right? Like there's a lot more subjectivity with balls and strikes than there is with like out and safe.
For sure.
Like in theory, like someone's either out or safe. It's like, did the ball get there before the guy's foot? Yeah. Right. That's sort of like this or this happened. Balls and strikes are not nearly that sort of objective. It's like, you know, did that cross the plate at the hollow of the guy's knees or whatever, you know, language it says in the rule book, you know, like there's some subjectivity to it. And look, like, you know, I always think about like Livan Hernandez striking out 15 guys in the NLCS or the NLDS or whatever that postseason series was against Atlanta back in 1997. And like, it's because the umpire strike zone was like bigger than the Atlantic Ocean that day. But that's like, so that was just such a like memorable game, you know. I don't know. I'm like fine with umpires like continuing to sort of have their stamp on the game. I'm not saying I like horribly blown calls. Like no one really likes them, but that's memorable in its own way. In some ways, right? Like, you know, but playing about umpires is like part of the game, and I think it's okay. And like having umpires have their individual strike zones, you know, it's part of it. It's just part of the game. Like, why can't it just be part of the game? I guess the question is, in all seriousness, I'm kind of like being a little flip, but if I'm being really serious, there's sort of this somewhat sort of philosophical question here. And this is not just about baseball. It's about all sports. It's like, do we actually want perfection in our sports, right? Like, is perfection the goal? I could see why one might say, yes, I think that the calls should be absolutely perfect all the times, that the players are single-handedly the ones making deciding the outcome. But I think there's a very valid argument to like, no, we don't need perfection. Like life isn't perfect. Sports are a metaphor for life. Things are messy. Weird things happen. Not everything is predictable. And sometimes like maybe it's okay that these like games that we all love are sort of, they're flawed. They're played by humans. They're watched by humans. They're judged by humans. Humans are imperfect. So the game is imperfect. And that's just sort of part of the beauty of it.
Yeah. And this goes back to your discussion about replay and how like you were kind of for it. And then every time it happens, you're kind of against it. the only way to get to a place where sports are perfect is to give as much time and energy and attention to the rules than you do the action. And the thing is, the rules are not entertaining. No one grows up, playing the rules of baseball with their friends or their dad, right? You're playing catch.
Go to the game for the action.
Right, you go to the game for the action. And every time you push a little bit closer to I want perfection, you're leaving less room for the action and creating more space and time and energy for just rules.
Yeah, it's just like bureaucracy. And I think everyone's just I know how important these games are to the players and how important they are to fans. They should be important. That's what makes them fun, is that we are invested in them. But it really is true. It's just these games, they're just supposed to be fun. And sometimes they're going to be weird things are going to happen in them. And then we get to argue about it for 6 months. And then guess what? The sun comes up again, or the springtime comes again. There's a new season, and we go out and do it again. And I'm getting all very philosophical on you, but I kind of feel that way, where it's maybe it's okay that in a world where our whole lives are being sort of dictated by technology and AI is taking over, to have this sort of thing where people are still allowed to be people. I don't know, but it's not going to happen because we're only going to get more replay, not less. So what am I even talking about here?
I don't know, but I like the fact that the Wall Street Journal has a baseball romantic on its staff. I think that is a great revelation for us today. All right, we'll save the stuff about Pete Rose and Trump for a different conversation somewhere down the road. Jared, if you're kind enough to join us again, we thank you very much for doing it. Outstanding work. Again, I'm glad that we did this. If for no other reason than I was just happy to rifle through all the stories yet again and get smarter reading all the great coverage that you have provided. Thank you for doing this.
Anytime. Talk to you guys soon.
All right, there you go. Speaking of guests, I think we're going to have a guest coming up tomorrow. I will hopefully be talking to Alex Kirkland of ESPN's soccer coverage, who is in the United States. He lives in Spain. He's also one of the hosts and a producer of a podcast that I've kind of modeled this one after, called the Spanish Football Podcast. I've been influenced by this podcast. I like a lot of the stuff that they do. Alex Kirkland is going to be at the Real Madrid match today, and so we're scheduled to connect tomorrow. So hopefully we will have that interview available for you. We'll talk a little bit about the FIFA Club World Cup, and he's been eating a lot of U.S. food since he's arrived in the States from Spain. You heard me raving all about the food that I got to eat when I was in Spain for 2 weeks. We'll talk to Alex about some of the delicacies that he's had here in the U.S. Great stuff, Jared Diamond. Really, really smart stuff on the Wall Street Journal website.
Yes, that was awesome. I did not get a chance to mention this. I try and mention this every time, the few and far between times in my life when Tony Clark comes up, which is when I was a little 7-8-year-old and the city that I lived in New Jersey got a minor league team. I was very excited. I went to all the games, and there was only really one good player on that team. And he was 22 years old, and his name was Tony Clark. And I fell in love with Tony Clark. Didn't know how minor league baseball worked. So the next year when Tony Clark was no longer on the team, I'm assuming because he had been promoted up to AAA or the majors, I was bummed. I was like, oh no, all the Trenton Thunder good players are gone. And then the 1995 team came in, and I'd like to do some remember some guys with you. We're going to throw out some names and see if you remembered some guys. One of which, Nomar Garciaparra, who was the star of the 1995 Trenton Thunders. Trot Nixon. Yep. Big fan of that one. This one was weird to go and look up because I remembered him existing in baseball a lot later than this, but Lou Merlone was on that team.
I remember Lou. Lou was a Padre back in 2003.
That's probably why I know his name. There's a bunch of names here of guys that made the majors, but I don't remember. Pat Lennon, Walt McKeel, Bill Selby. I don't know any of these people. However, there was a person on this team, and I do kind of remember him. He never made the majors. And this is one of those names that when you see it in on a baseball reference thing, you're like, oh, that guy played 150 years ago. His name is Pork Chop Poo.
Pork Chop Poo.
Yeah, I guess P-O-U-G-H. How would you pronounce P-O-U-G-H?
P-O-U, Po?
Po?
Pow?
Pork chop
yeah.
pow? Pork
but
chop
I think
pow.
Poo is better.
I think Poo is better. Pork chop Poo, yeah.
Let's go with Poo.
You just don't see on Baseball Reference someone listed as Pork Chop very often anymore. Maybe it was his real name.
I love that. I do love that as well. Update, I went to Costco yesterday. I did not
Yay.
wait in line to get a hot dog, though.
Boo.
Yeah. And I did see some reaction on the Discord channel from the fact that I haven't been to a Costco food court is apparently more offensive than my jeans take. Forgive me for not having my Discord open right now. I don't know who that came from. Let's see if I can scroll through it real quick. Probably not.
Hey,
but
wait,
I did read that, so I appreciate it. What else? I also I know somebody sent us an email.
Yeah.
And I do have the email in front of me. So somebody sent us. We should do more of this, actually.
I'm planning to opening. We're going to start doing mailbag episodes pretty soon here.
Yeah, I think we actually should create a tab on Discord.
There is a tab on Discord. It says mailbag. No one's ever put anything in there except for me. If you're listening to this and you want to ask us questions, go into the Discord, go into the mailbag channel, and start asking them. Did
you email this to me? Somebody was asking about, maybe somewhere down the road, instead of having to listen to some national guys call a playoff game, maybe there should be an option if you're viewing this where you can flip over and you can listen to the hometown radio call. I would think if you're going to go into a streaming world, that is absolutely a possibility. That's one of the things that Apple TV Plus does really well. I love it when people can tune in and listen to Adrian Garcia Marquez and myself or Warren or whomever. I love that people can do that. So, I think at the MLB.TV app, I think that there are some options, I think, if you pay enough, where you can have Jesse and Tony or Jesse and Mud or whatever the case is, whatever the arrangement is. I think you can have that on MLB.TV. Maybe not the Padres channel. Usually it gives me some options of watching the visiting TV or the home TV. But I do remember being under a different subscription plan where I thought that was an option years and years and years ago. But yeah, if I were in the future, I would absolutely include that as part of the package. So thank you for that. I do appreciate that email that we were sent today. That was from Paul. So thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. And before we wrap up, or at least wrap up,
went to Saints in North Park, by the way.
1982, class of 1982. Before I was even born, but a fellow Saintsman nonetheless. So I imagine the school was very different in our when he went and when I went. There was a story in the UT that I did not link to in Front Row Seat because I thought it was absurd. I didn't even click on it. And because I'm now a UT subscriber for the $1 a year thing that you put me onto, it's now been emailed to me as a Padres report. And like all Tom Krasovich articles, it has his name as the first part of the headline. And then this is the rest of the headline, Darren. This is breaking news, I think. Odds are against Padres making run for World Series title. Imagine that.
What?
Imagine that. They're in like fourth place of their own division. They can't stop tripping over their own feet, and Mike Schilt doesn't know who the fuck Andy Pajes is.
How could we say such a thing when we just got the Trenton Brooks era underway last night in dramatic fashion?
Odds are against it, Darren. Odds are against a run for a World Series title.
The odds are against everybody if you look at it. If you really want to be absolutely
big breaking news.
Yeah, I mean the odds are actually against the Dodgers too. It's more likely that they don't win the World Series than it is that they do win the World Series.
Yeah, a little ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good to know, as I somehow will manage to carry on with my Wednesday. We're watching a little bit of a FIFA World Cup. I know we also have Mexico in the Gold Cup tonight. We've seen some impressive performances from Canada and Panama. Not going to be easy. USA, Saudi Arabia, I think, tomorrow. So got a little bit of the footy on the mind. I think a lot of people will be off tomorrow. John's going to take the day off for the most part. Going to go play a little bit of golf for Juneteenth. We do have our midweek live show tonight, which is actually going to be live.
Yeah,
6 o'clock.
Because there's no taped interviews or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
Everyone from the team is just relaxing somewhere.
Yeah, I'll be back in the iHeart studios at 6 o'clock. Hopefully everybody's cleared out by then.
Yeah, is there anything in there that you miss? Is the coffee real
not
good?
really. I don't mind going in on the weekend when nobody's there, but I don't really want to get wrapped up with a bunch of, oh man, how you been? I've been fine. Been good. I'm all right. I'm good, man. I'm fine. I don't need to have another one of those conversations. But yeah, we'll do that live tonight. I think we have a couple of guests that are not SDFC specific. But as for this podcast tomorrow, again, Alex Kirkland will join us. So thanks to Jared Diamond. And we'll see what Wednesday night brings at Dodger Stadium. Enjoy your Wednesday, and if you're off on Thursday, enjoy an off day, and we'll check back in tomorrow.